I was 27 years old when I destroyed my family in 47 seconds. I didn't mean to. I wasn't looking for anything. I just opened the wrong door. My sister Melissa's wedding was at the Riverside Estate, one of those sprawling colonial venues with too many identical hallways and doors that all looked the same. I'd been sent to find extra chairs for the ceremony, Mom's instructions, delivered with that tight smile she uses when she's stressed but refusing to admit it. The venue coordinator had pointed vaguely toward the back storage area, and I'd wandered through 3 wrong turns before finding myself in a service corridor I definitely wasn't supposed to be in. The door I opened was unmarked. I was expecting a storage closet, maybe some folding chairs stacked against a wall. Instead, I walked into what looked like a small office, desk, filing cabinet, a window overlooking the gardens where they'd be setting out for the reception. And my mother, standing with her back to me, phone pressed to her ear. I should have backed out immediately. I was already turning to leave when I heard her say, "She doesn't know. Melissa doesn't know, and she never will. We've kept this buried for 24 years. We can keep it buried for 24 more. My hand froze on the doorknob. My mother's voice had that quality I'd heard maybe 3 times in my entire life. The one that meant something was seriously, irreparably wrong. I'd heard it when my grandfather died. When our house flooded. When my dad's company went bankrupt. This was that voice. "Richard has no claim to her," my mother continued. Her shoulders were rigid. "He signed away his rights before she was even born. James is her father in every way that matters. This wedding is not the time to... No. No. You listen to me. If you contact her, if you show up here, if you so much as send a card, I will make sure you regret it. Do you understand me?" 47 seconds. That's how long I stood there, completely paralyzed, before my brain caught up to what I was hearing. 47 seconds from the moment I opened the door to the moment my mother turned around and saw me standing there. Her face went white. Actually white, like someone had drained the blood straight out of her. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the desk. We stared at each other across that small office, and I watched her cycle through about 15 different emotions in the span of a breath: shock, fear, anger, calculation, resignation. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "How much did you hear?" she finally asked. My mouth was dry. "Who's Richard?" She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something in her expression had shifted into a kind of terrible resolve. "We need to talk. But not here. Not now. After the wedding aisle. Who is Richard?" I repeated. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant and detached. "Who did Dad sign away rights to?" "Your father didn't sign away anything," she said sharply. Then she seemed to realize her mistake, because she pressed her fingers to her temples and took a long, shaky breath. "James is Melissa's father. He raised her. He's her father." The way she said it made something click into place in my head, a horrible, impossible understanding that I didn't want to have. "But he's not her biological father." My mother didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence was answer enough. I think I said something. I don't remember what. I remember backing out of that office, my mother saying my name. "David, wait, please." And I remember walking very quickly back down that service corridor, through the main hall, out a side door into the gardens. I remember sitting down on a decorative bench near the fountain and staring at my hands for what might have been 5 minutes, or might have been 30. Melissa wasn't my full sister. My dad wasn't her dad. This wasn't some recent affair, some mid-marriage crisis. This was foundational. This was before I was even born. My entire understanding of my family history was built on a lie. I should have processed this privately. I should have waited until after the wedding, like my mother had asked, and then demanded answers. I should have been smarter, more careful, more controlled. But I was 27, and I'd just had my reality cracked open, and when Melissa found me sitting by that fountain 20 minutes before her ceremony was supposed to start, I was not in any condition to pretend everything was fine. "There you are," she said, hiking up her dress to navigate the garden path in her heels. "Mom's losing her mind about the chairs. Did you find them, or did you just abandon ship?" I looked up at her. My sister, my half-sister, standing there in her wedding dress with her hair swept up in some complicated style that had taken 3 hours at the salon, smiling at me with the same smile I'd seen my whole life. Except now I was seeing it differently. Now I was noticing that she didn't look like Dad. She'd never looked like Dad. Everyone always said she took after Mom's side of the family, and we'd all just accepted that explanation. "David?" Her smile faltered. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I should have lied. I should have said I was feeling sick, or that I'd gotten a disturbing phone call, or literally anything other than what I actually said. "Who's Richard?" I watched the name hit her like a physical blow. Her whole body went still. "What?" "Richard," I repeated. I was standing now, though I didn't remember standing. "Who is he?" Melissa's face had gone very pale under her makeup. "Where did you hear that name?" "Mom was on the phone with someone. I heard her." The words were tumbling out faster now. "She said he signed away his rights before you were born. She said Dad isn't, that James is your father in every way that matters, but—" "Stop." Melissa held up one hand. Her other hand was gripping her dress so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "Stop talking. Right now." We stared at each other across the garden path. In the distance, I could hear the string quartet warming up. Guests were probably already arriving, filing into their seats, waiting for a wedding that suddenly felt like it was happening in an alternate universe. "You know," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. The thing about secrets is that they have weight. They have pressure. And once you know them, you can't unknow them, and you can't pretend you don't notice all the ways they've been shaping your reality all along. I started seeing it everywhere. The way Dad was always slightly more reserved with Melissa than with me. The way Mom got tense whenever anyone commented on family resemblances. The way Melissa had always been inexplicably weird about those Ancestry DNA kits that became popular a few years back. The way certain family photos were displayed and others weren't. All the small strangeness I'd filed away as normal family quirks suddenly reorganized themselves into a pattern, and the pattern told a story I'd never been invited to read. Mom called the next morning. I let it go to voicemail. She called again an hour later. And again. And again. On the 5th call, I answered. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. "In person. Today. Your father and I will come to your place, or you can come here, but this needs to happen now." "Does Melissa want me there?" I asked. There was a pause. "Melissa and Christopher left for their honeymoon this morning. They don't know I'm calling you. She knows I know. I'm aware." Mom's voice was tight. "Which is why we need to talk. Before this gets any more out of hand than it already is." I almost laughed. Out of hand. As if there was any way to handle this neatly. "Fine. Come here. 2 o'clock. They arrived at 1:45. Mom looked like she hadn't slept. Dad looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. They sat on my couch, the same couch I'd sat on the night before, trying to process everything, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "Your mother told me what you overheard." "Okay," I said. "And I want you to understand something before we go any further." He leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. "Melissa is my daughter. In every single way that matters, she is my daughter. The biology doesn't change that. It never has, and it never will. I believed him. That was the strange part. I could hear the truth in his voice, see it in the way his whole body tensed with the need to protect Melissa even in her absence. But I could also see the hurt underneath it, the vulnerability of a father who knew his daughter carried someone else's DNA and had probably spent 24 years wondering if that mattered. "Who is Richard?" I asked. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Some kind of wordless communication passed between them, and then Mom took a breath and started talking. The story came out in pieces. Richard was someone Mom had dated before she met Dad. They'd been together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. 2 weeks before their wedding, Mom found out she was pregnant. 3 days after that, she found out Richard had been cheating on her for most of their relationship. She broke off the engagement. Richard wanted nothing to do with the baby. He signed away his parental rights and moved across the country. Mom met Dad 4 months later at a grief support group. They both lost people in a car accident, different accidents, same week. They started dating. Dad knew about the pregnancy from the beginning. He married Mom when she was 7 months along and was in the delivery room when Melissa was born. "I've been her father since the day she was born," Dad said quietly. "I changed her diapers. I walked her to school. I taught her to ride a bike. I'm the one who sat up with her when she had nightmares. Biology is just biology. Fatherhood is something you do. So why did you tell her?" I asked. "When she was 16, why tell her at all if it doesn't matter?" Mom's jaw tightened. "Because Richard reached out. He'd gotten married, had a daughter of his own, and suddenly he wanted to know about Melissa. He wanted to meet her. He had the audacity to say he'd made a mistake and wanted to be part of her life. We couldn't risk him showing up unannounced," Dad added. "We needed Melissa to know the truth from us in case he ever tried to contact her directly. We wanted her to have the context, to understand that we protected her from him her whole life." "And has he contacted her?" I asked. "He's tried," Mom said. 3 times over the years. We've shut it down each time. He has no rights, no claim. Melissa made it clear she wanted nothing to do with him." I sat with that for a moment. Tried to imagine being 16 and learning that your entire identity was more complicated than you thought. "She seemed okay with it. At the wedding, I mean. She said she's always known. She's processed it," Dad said carefully. "It took time and therapy and a lot of conversations. But yes, she's okay with it. She chose us. She chose this family." The unspoken accusation hung in the air between us, until you made it complicated again. "I didn't mean to find out," I said. "I wasn't looking for this. We know." Mom's voice softened slightly. "But now that you do know, we need you to understand the full picture. This isn't just about Melissa. This is about our whole family. If this gets out, if you tell people, if it becomes gossip, it won't just hurt Melissa. It will hurt all of us." "Who would I tell?" I asked. "Who exactly do you think I'm going to run to with this information?" "We don't know," Mom said bluntly. "We don't know how you're going to react. We don't know if you're angry or hurt or if you're going to hold this against us for not telling you sooner. We don't know anything right now except that a secret we've kept for 24 years is suddenly unstable, and we need to know where you stand." I looked at my parents, these people I'd known my whole life, who suddenly seemed like strangers I was meeting for the first time. "Where I stand is confused," I said finally. "I don't know what you want from me. Do you want me to pretend I never found out? Do you want me to promise I'll never bring it up? Do you want me to have some kind of emotional breakthrough where I declare that biology doesn't matter and everything's fine? We want you to not destroy your sister's life because you're processing something that was never yours to process," Mom said sharply. The words hit like a slap. I stood up abruptly, needing space, needing distance from the weight of their expectations. I haven't destroyed anything. I asked her a question. One question. And she's the one who won't talk to me now. Because you made her wedding day about this, Dad said. Because you couldn't wait 24 hours to deal with something that's been true her entire life. He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing it didn't make it feel any less unfair that I was somehow the villain in this story just because I'd opened the wrong door. I need time, I said. I need to think about all of this without you two sitting here trying to manage my reaction. They left shortly after that. Mom hugged me at the door, a stiff, uncertain embrace that felt nothing like the hugs I'd grown up with. Dad squeezed my shoulder and told me to call if I needed anything, and then they were gone, and I was alone with a family history that had reorganized itself into something I didn't recognize. I didn't hear from Melissa for 3 weeks. When she finally called, her voice was calm and cold and completely unlike herself. I need to know if you're going to be able to move past this, she said. Because if you can't, I need to know now. Move past what? I asked. The secret or the fact that everyone knew except me? See, that right there. Melissa's voice sharpened. That's what I mean. You're making this about you. About what you didn't know, about how you feel betrayed, about your experience of finding out. But this was never about you, David. This is my life. My story. And you crashed into it and made it about your feelings. I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend myself. But she wasn't entirely wrong. I didn't mean to. I know you didn't mean to. She sounded tired now. But you did it anyway. And now I'm on my honeymoon, and instead of being fully present with my husband, I'm having conversations about whether my brother can handle the fact that my biological father is someone I've never met and never want to meet. Instead of enjoying the first week of my marriage, I'm wondering if every future family gathering is going to be tense because you can't look at me without seeing this information you wish you didn't have. That's not fair, I said quietly. None of this is fair, Melissa shot back. It wasn't fair that my biological father abandoned me before I was born. It wasn't fair that Mom and Dad had to tell me the truth when I was 16 because some man I'd never met decided he wanted to play father. It wasn't fair that I've spent 8 years carefully managing this information, protecting Dad's feelings, making sure everyone understood that James is my father and Richard is nothing. And it's really not fair that I'm having this conversation with you right now instead of celebrating my marriage. I didn't know what to say to that. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the faint sound of ocean waves in the background. She was calling from somewhere tropical, somewhere beautiful, somewhere that should have been purely happy. I'm sorry, I finally said, for bringing it up at your wedding, for making you deal with this on what should have been the best day of your life. I'm sorry. Thank you. Melissa's voice was still cool. But sorry doesn't fix the fact that you know now, and we have to figure out how to move forward with that reality. How do you want to move forward? I asked. I want you to treat me exactly the same way you've always treated me, she said. I want you to remember that I'm your sister. Full stop. No qualifiers, no asterisks, no mental notes about biological technicalities. I want you to look at Dad and remember that he's the one who raised me, who loves me, who chose me every single day of my life. Can you do that? I wanted to say yes immediately. I wanted to give her that reassurance. But I'd already made the mistake of saying things I didn't mean, of reacting before I'd processed, and I didn't want to lie to her again. I'm trying, I said instead. I'm really trying. But I can't just unknow this, Melissa. I can't just go back to seeing everything the way I used to. Then I don't know if we can fix this, she said quietly. The line went dead before I could respond. I didn't tell anyone else. Not my friends, not my extended family, not even Emma when she called to check on me and mentioned that I'd seemed off at the wedding. I kept the secret the way I was supposed to, and I tried to process it alone, and I slowly realized that knowing a family secret doesn't make you part of its protection. It makes you part of its weight. Thanksgiving was 4 months after the wedding. Mom sent a group text asking if everyone was still planning to come for dinner. Melissa responded with a thumbs up. I stared at my phone for 20 minutes before typing, "I'll be there." The dinner was exactly as awful as I'd expected. We sat around the table making stilted conversation about safe topics: Christopher's new job, Mom's garden, the neighbor's remodeling project. Dad carved the turkey with meticulous precision. Melissa passed dishes without making eye contact with me. I helped clean up afterward and said goodbye to everyone and drove home feeling like I'd just participated in a play where everyone knew their lines except me. Christmas was worse. New Year's was worse than that. By the time Melissa's first wedding anniversary came around, we'd perfected the art of being in the same room without really acknowledging each other's presence. Mom pulled me aside at Easter. "This has to stop," she said. "Whatever is broken between you and Melissa, you need to fix it." "I don't know how," I admitted. "You start by calling her," Mom said. "You start by having an actual conversation instead of this Cold War you've been waging for a year. She's the one who won't talk to me. Because you're the one who hurt her." Mom's eyes were hard. "You made her question whether you still saw her as your sister. You made her wedding day about a secret she's spent 8 years managing with grace and maturity. You don't get to be the wounded party here, David. You just don't." She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing it and feeling it were two different things, and I still felt bruised and lost and unsure of how to navigate a family dynamic that had fundamentally shifted in my understanding even if it hadn't shifted in reality. I called Melissa that night. It went to voicemail. I called again the next day. Voicemail again. On the third attempt, she finally picked up. "What do you want?" she asked. "To talk," I said. "Actually talk. Not fight, not argue, just talk." "About what?" "About us. About how we fix this." There was a long pause. Then, "I don't know if there's anything to fix, David. I think maybe this is just who we are now. Two people who used to be close and aren't anymore." "That's not good enough for me," I said. "Well, it has to be good enough," Melissa said. "Because I'm tired. I'm tired of managing everyone's feelings about my parentage. I'm tired of wondering if my own brother sees me differently now. I'm tired of pretending that what you did didn't fundamentally change how I see you. How you see me." I couldn't keep the shock out of my voice. "You think you're the only one whose perspective shifted?" Melissa's laugh was bitter. "I used to think you were the one person who would always have my back. The one person who saw me for exactly who I am without any complicated backstory attached. And then you found out about Richard, and suddenly I could see you calculating, reassessing, looking at me and Dad and trying to figure out what it all meant. You think I didn't notice that? You think it didn't hurt?" I hadn't thought about it that way. Hadn't considered that my processing might look like judgment from her side. "I wasn't judging you. Maybe not consciously," she said. "But you were pulling away. You are still pulling away. Every family gathering, I can feel you keeping your distance. Like if you get too close, you might accidentally acknowledge the thing we're all pretending you don't know." "I don't know how to acknowledge it," I said. "I don't know what you want from me." "I want you to be my brother," Melissa said simply. "The way you were before. The way you've always been. But I don't think you know how to do that anymore." We ended the call without resolution, without healing, without any sense that we were moving toward anything other than a permanent state of fractured. 3 years have passed since I opened that door. 3 years of strained family gatherings and careful conversations, and the growing acceptance that some things, once broken, don't get fixed, they just become a permanent part of the landscape you navigate. Melissa and Christopher had a baby last year, a daughter named Claire. I'm her uncle. I hold her at family gatherings and make appropriate uncle noises, and try not to think about genetics or bloodlines, or the ways families are built on choices as much as biology. Sometimes I catch Dad looking at Claire with this expression of fierce protective love, and I wonder if that's how he looked at Melissa when she was born. I wonder if he ever worried that not sharing her DNA would matter, or if he always knew it wouldn't. I wonder if he feels vindicated now, watching his daughter raise her own daughter, seeing the proof that family is what you make it. I wonder if he knows that his son, me, is the one who proved him wrong. That biology might not matter, but secrets do. That the truth might not change how you love someone, but discovering you've been outside that truth your whole life can change everything. I haven't spoken to Richard. I've never tried to find him or learn more about him. That's Melissa's story to pursue or not pursue, and I learned my lesson about inserting myself into narratives that aren't mine. But sometimes I think about him, this man who contributed half of my sister's DNA and nothing else, and I wonder if he knows how much damage his absence continued to cause long after he disappeared. If he has any idea that his decision to abandon Melissa before she was born created ripples that are still spreading 30 years later. Mom asked me last week if I thought Melissa and I would ever get back to normal. I told her I didn't know. What I didn't say is that I'm not sure normal exists anymore. We found a new equilibrium, Melissa and I. We're polite. We're present for family events. We exchange appropriate gifts on birthdays and holidays. We ask after each other's lives with genuine interest and respond to texts within reasonable time frames. We're siblings. We're just not brother and sister the way we used to be. I don't know if that's my fault or hers, or just the inevitable consequence of a secret that was always going to reshape us once it was known. I don't know if I should have kept my mouth shut at her wedding, processed everything alone, and never let on that I knew. I don't know if honesty was worth the cost. What I do know is that 47 seconds changed everything. 47 seconds of standing in a doorway, hearing my mother's voice, and understanding that my family history was more complicated than I'd been allowed to know. 47 seconds that I can't take back and wouldn't know how to take back even if I could, because the information is in my head now, permanent and unchangeable. I carry it every day. The weight of knowing something I never wanted to know. The responsibility of keeping a secret that everyone knows I know. The loss of a relationship with my sister that I can see but can't quite reach anymore, like looking at something through glass. Sometimes I think about alternate timelines. The version where I opened the right door and found the chairs and never heard my mother's phone conversation. The version where Melissa got married and I stood beside her as her brother, uncomplicated and whole. The version where I'm still someone she trusts without reservation. But that's not the timeline I'm in. I'm in this one, where I know too much, where the knowing has cost me, and where I still can't say with certainty whether the truth was worth its price. I opened the wrong door. Everything after that was just consequence.